Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for the channel's first ever joint review of two pre-painted figures at the same time, namely the FuRyu BiCute Bunnies pair of Rem and Ram from ReZero in white Playboy Bunny attires. This two-in-one review comes about due to unique similarities of the twin sisters in their overall bunny figure design, as well as how in most cases, as it is here, though there are exceptions of both Rem and Ram being designed to be displayed as a pair. First, I'll unbox and unwrap each sister individually and give each their own close-up views before summarizing the pair's pros and cons together for both a joint as well as individual ratings. Due to her unwavering loyalty and devotion to Subaru, the main protagonist of ReZero, Ram is arguably the more popular sister, especially among fans of the isekai series that subscribe to the waifu culture. Proponents of waifu culture tend to fixate on idealized archetypes of female anime characters, whereby they are largely sensitive, caring, and empathetic, as well as being codependent, as opposed to the other sister Ram, whose aloof and sardonic nature makes her the less likable of the two. BiCute Bunnies Ram is featured prominently via big photographic images printed on the glossy sides of the box, where you have close-ups of her from a 3/4 view as well as front and back views, all from the waist up. There is also a zoomed out view of the whole figure from head to toe, located at the back of the box. This complete figure view shows off Ram posed against a predominantly pastel-like blue and gold backdrop. Meanwhile, at the top of the box, there is the BiCute Bunnies logo and the name of the character. Anyway, let's get to unboxing and unwrapping Ram first in this short ASMR section. If you prefer to skip ahead to Ram's assembly or close-up and once-over, please refer to the corresponding timestamps provided on the screen and the descriptions below. Because Ram herself comes in two separate parts, not counting the display base, a simple assembly process will be undertaken in a short ASMR assembly section, with commentary to fully resume in Bunny Girl Ram's close-up and once-over section afterwards. FuRyu has actually made 4 different color variations of Bunny Girl, Rem and Ram in the same exact poses that sees the twin sisters outfitted in black, blue, red and white Playboy Bunny outfits, the last of which you see here. That so many color variations exist perhaps gives you an idea of the immense popularity of the twin sisters from the ReZero isekai. In terms of color scheme, Bunny Girl Ram literally shines because while her fine mesh stockings, cuffs, armbands, neck collar, headband and fluffy bunny tail are in pure white, Ram's strapless corset teddy, bunny ears and high heels are all in a glossy pearl-like white. Needless to say, Ram looks gorgeous in this white Playboy Bunny ensemble, helped by FuRyu BiCute Bunnies' reputation bearing out in the excellent likeness factor to her anime counterpart. Another key feature that the BiCute Bunnies line is noted for is the use of real mesh stocking material instead of just using paint to mimic actual stockings. I was, however, fairly disappointed with the almost complete lack of skin tone shading on Bunny Girl Ram, save for the blush on her cheeks. I felt that even some light skin tone shading would have added a subtle yet effective hue variety and depth to the fair skin tone and primarily blue and white color scheme. And unsurprisingly, this lack of shading extends to her fingernails, which remain unpainted, as you well know is a pet peeve of mine. And while the simple white round base also doesn't add much to hue variety, save perhaps for its gold line design and BiCute Bunnies logo, the tedium of a nearly all-white color scheme is actually a non-issue due to Ram's Playboy Bunny ensemble being in glossy pearl white, which stands out against the flat whites as well as her fair skin tone. Now, as per my observation so far, there isn't any shading done on the figure's paintwork from the neck down, right down to the flat white base. With this being Ram, the younger twin, she has light blue hair that's not only more prominent in an almost all-white color scheme, but is also the only other area with highlights on the paintwork, which in turn looks more noticeable due to its prominence. Unlike her twin sister, Ram isn't as popular among pre-painted figure collectors, as is borne out by the fact that her sister is more ubiquitous as a standalone figure versus Ram's own presence as mostly part of a paired figure set, as is the case for the FuRyu BiCute Bunnies product lineup. In terms of Bunny Girl Ram's box art, a similar concept as those found in her younger sister's packaging is evident, with the main differences being Ram's pink hair color giving the box overall color scheme a warmer tint. And of course, Ram's pose is different as the photographic images here show. Just like her sister before her, Ram will first be unpacked, or in other words, Bunny Girl Ram will first undergo an unboxing and unwrapping ASMR in a non-commentary section of this video, followed by her assembly prior to being looked at in detail in a zoomed out view. Because of the twin sisters' similarity in build design, Ram's assembly will be shown in an uninterrupted ASMR section that continues straight after her unwrapping. Commentary will resume only in the close-up and once-over section, which can be skipped ahead to using the timestamp provided. For this close-up view and once-over of Bunny Girl Ram, it's best to highlight the differences between her and her twin sister, because most of what I've observed and said about Ram's younger sister largely holds true for her as well. Easiest difference to spot is Ram's hair and eye color, which is pink. But apart from hue, there are also structural differences such as her mouth, which is now open and showing glimpses of her tongue and upper teeth, versus her sister's closed mouth smile. Then there's her bangs, which now cover her left eye versus the right eye for her sister. A similar difference applies to her bunny ears, i.e. the left one is drooping versus the right in her sister's case. Most obvious of all is the difference in either sister's pose, but that will be dealt with later in the full 360-degree view section. As I mentioned earlier, the rest of Ram's attributes do not stray far from her sister's, down to the fact that while there are highlights applied to her hair and blushes to her cheeks, the rest of her paintwork, for example her skin tone, is unshaded and her fingernails unpainted. Ram's Playboy Bunny ensemble is a direct copy of her sister's. That is a glossy pearl white strapless corset teddy, bunny ears and high heels, all of which is paired with flat white cuffs, armbands and neck collar, and the corresponding black buttons, bands and bow tie respectively. There is one white part of Ram's Playboy Bunny ensemble that does not have a black accompaniment, and that is the huge fluffy white tail on the small of her back. And of course, both sisters have on a pair of fine mesh fishnet stockings that is flat white in color, actual cloth material that mimics the real-world stocking material. In terms of likeness factor, Ram scores just as highly as her twin sister, with the hair and eye color the key differentiating factor to tell one sister apart from the other. Meanwhile, the display base Ram stands on looks like an exact replica of her sister's base, comprising a simple flat white round base with gold line design and a Gold BiCute Bunnies logo. Anyway, let's now move on to the full 360-degree views of both Bunny Girl Ram and Ram side by side, so that we can get a better visual comparison of both sisters. FuRyu BiCute Bunnies figures have a good reputation for shelf presence, not only due to their obvious sculpt and paintwork quality, but also by their impressive sizes. Both Bunny Girls Ram and Ram do not disappoint in this regard, with both sisters reaching a height of 24 centimeters when measured from their feet to their heads, and reaching almost 29 centimeters when measured to the tip of the standing bunny ear. From this full figure view of both sisters, we have a clear and unobstructed view of both the poses they have adopted, and it is here that perhaps both Bunny Girls Ram and Ram are at their relative weakest. Let me explain what I mean. First, let's observe pink-haired Ram on the left. If her pose looks familiar to you, it's because you've seen it before on another figure in this channel. Specifically, Ram has a pose that's almost identical to that of Bunny Girl Kaguya-sama, differing only in that it's a mirror image to the pose adopted by the Love is War character. For blue-haired Ram on the right, her pose looks a tad awkward to me, especially from the waist down, where her legs seem slightly unnatural in their positioning relative to each other. And of all the BiCute Bunnies figures I have collected so far, Bunny Girl Ram certainly has one of the more boring poses, although when paired with her sister Ram, the combined mirror-like poses look much better. Meanwhile, in terms of overall color scheme, the pair of sisters project soothing pastel-like hues, dominated by interplay between the soft pinks and blues among a sea of pearl and flat whites. Because of the widespread use of neutral colors, namely the flat whites, glossy pearl whites, and to a certain extent the sisters' skin tones due to it being relatively fair, the soft pinks and blues carry the bulk of the responsibility in creating color excitement for the pair. With this being the case, it's no surprise to see a lot of the detailed paintwork being concentrated on the sisters' head and hair. This translates to the shading and highlights paintwork being focused on their facial details and hair respectively, by way of the blushes on the sisters' cheeks and the highlights on their hair. To differentiate the sisters in a mirror-like fashion, FuRyu had sculpted the bunny ears and hair bangs of each sister in a visually opposing manner, i.e. the bangs fall and the ears droop on Ram's right side versus Ram's left side. At first glance, there doesn't seem to be anything that differentiates the middle section of both sisters apart from the positioning of their arms. But FuRyu had sculpted blue-haired Ram's upper torso to be more well-endowed compared with her sister's more flat-chested look. In addition to this, blue-haired Ram has a much narrower waist, which then translates to wider-looking hips compared to pink-haired Ram. These less obvious details help accentuate the physical differences between both sisters, thus complementing the more conspicuous difference in hair and eye color. Both sisters have on the same pearl-like strapless corset teddy, which is glossy, versus the flat whites of her cuffs, armbands, neck collar, and fluffy bunny tail. This minor difference in surface glossiness helps add subtle hue variety to an all-white Playboy Bunny outfit. Both sisters are wearing FuRyu's signature fine mesh fishnet stockings made out of real stocking-like materials. BiCute Bunnies figures' unique selling point is that they use real stockings as opposed to mimicking the stockings by using paint shading. At this lower angle, you can tell each sister apart based on the positioning of the legs. Both sisters stand upon identical display bases, which will make for visual uniformity when both are displayed together on the shelf. Based on everything we have seen about the twin sisters so far, point towards a pair of pre-painted figures that was designed to be displayed together side by side. To recap, the features that brought me to this conclusion largely revolves around the symmetry that both figures project when they are stood next to each other, as is evidenced visually by the way the sisters' bunny ears are drooping and the sight of hair bangs covering their eye, which for pink-haired Ram is on her left side and the right for blue-haired Ram. Admittedly though, this mirror-like symmetry is confined largely to the head area from the neck up. Anything else from the neck down has noticeable differences in body shape and body posture or pose. Yet there is enough symmetrical values for the figures from the neck up that justify rating Bunny Girls Rem and Ram as a combined pair. This BiCute Bunnies pair is one of those instances where the sum is greater than the parts. Even having said that, each individual sister's pose do have elements of symmetry too, by way of the right arm for pink-haired Ram and left for the blue-haired Ram, both of which are extended straight down. Moreover, the relative prominence of white throughout both figures' color scheme means that having the interplay of soft pinks and reds with each other leads to a better overall aesthetic, color-wise. So with the combined pair in mind, I'm giving the FuRyu BiCute Bunnies pre-painted figures of Rem and Ram from the ReZero's Isekai series a rating of Diamond or A rank. Now I'm sure you're curious as to what each individual sister's rating would have been if, say, you would prefer to only display one or the other in your figure collection. Before I go ahead with my separate unofficial ratings for each sister, it's worth noting that the individual ratings is reflective more of how good the twin sisters look together rather than apart. Just based on that, I'm pretty sure you know where I'm headed with this. As individuals, I would rate Bunny Girl Ram as Platinum or B rank, while Bunny Girl Ram gets a Gold or a C rank. While Bunny Girl Ram looks pretty good even all by herself, her pose looks a bit out of character and was better suited on Kaguya-sama from the Love is War series. Here, Ram's pose just looks a bit boring. As for Bunny Girl Ram, the awkwardness of her pose stands out too much, thus resulting in her even lower rating. Yet despite the twin sisters' lower individual ratings, as a ReZero fan, I could see the potential of the pairing when displayed side by side on the shelf. So from the start, I was only ever going to get both together and not either individually for my figure collection. Also, being a huge fan of Bunny Girl figures, it was almost a no-brainer to add the FuRyu BiCute Bunnies duo of Rem and Ram to my ReZero collection. Of course, there are much better Bunny Girl versions of the twins, but they are extremely expensive, such as the freeing versions that cost roughly 10 times more. Yet despite the imperfections exhibited by the FuRyu BiCute Bunnies versions of both the twin sisters, it is still something a collector can easily overlook considering the price point of these figures versus how costly good premium quality Bunny Girl figures are in the market. And good they definitely are, this FuRyu BiCute Bunnies pair of Rem and Ram. For sure, I think they will make a great pairing in any ReZero fans collection. And so ends my first joint rating for what is essentially two figures that are sold separately and not as a set. I hope you have enjoyed this rather long unboxing and review. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay safe, be well, and be happy. Bye.